And we meet her, and she's a filmmaker. And I was telling this in a private conversation, but I was saying that I want to my mind, to date, Nikki Green is still the best Black female, like the best written Black female character, and best treated female character on a teen television show. And that's not saying a lot, but I think her depiction is still the best. Hello, everyone. This is Alex.
And this is Em.
Welcome to the latest episode of The Good, the Bad, the Basic.
This is the podcast for nostalgic Gen X and millennials and binge watchers of all ages.
On this podcast, we'll be discussing what we love, what we hate, and what's just a little bit problematic about the TV and movies that we're addicted to.
And do a little bit of rewriting where necessary.
On today's episode, we'll be discussing one of the most landmark television series of all time, the show that wrote the blueprint for teen dramas, Dawson's Creek.
Running from 1998 through 2003, Dawson's Creek is, no exaggeration, a pop culture and television icon, introducing audiences to the concept of a teen-centered drama, meaning taking the, at the time, risk of centering teens on a TV show, and consistently choosing substance over style to craft memorable characters. When Fox reluctantly passed on Dawson's Creek, the WB saw an opportunity to add the slice-of-life teen drama to their roster, alongside the already successful Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and their gamble paid off, making the network the authority on teen drama to this very day.
The breakout overnight success of Dawson's Creek has even been credited as an element in the success of the string of highly successful teen rom-coms of the late 90s and early 2000s, such as Can't Hardly Wait, Whatever It Takes, and Drive Me Crazy, to name a few.
So what helped make Dawson's Creek such a cultural icon?
Stay tuned. In season 1, I think we learn about these sort of characters like right off the bat. I want to say that the first couple of minutes are, we see this very beautiful, very idyllic New England town. And, there's Joey and Dawson sitting together on, his bed watching this movie, and then finishing a sort of motif that will come over and over and over again, throughout the run of this series. This sort of Dawson and Joey sitting together on this bed and watching this movie, whatever movie that they're watching. We understand that it's about to be their first year of high school, and these are two best friends, and then we launch into this dialogue that's super overwrought, but I guess works for the sense of the show. I think this is also where you start to see teenagers start talking like adults. Mm-hmm. They don't talk necessarily like teenagers. And yeah, through the pilot, we're introduced to, our quote unquote core four, Joey, Dawson, Pacey, and Jen. in their life in Cape Side. The show, by the way, beautifully shot. I did not remember that, but like very, very beautiful show, like very beautiful, very well shot, very beautiful. Like there's like a frame where like Joey is like rowing in this boat down the creek or whatever to her home where she lives, and it's like a crane shot and it's like gorgeous. And I did not remember any of that. That was cool.
Yeah, Dawson's Creek was absolutely beautifully shot. Now this is something that I did remember from my first watches of the series. So I've watched, full disclosure, I've watched the series like an unhealthy amount of times. I caught a few episodes here and there when it was first on television, and then I watched it because my mom was not a fan of Dawson's Creek. She thought that it was inappropriate for children, that they were bad children and a bad influence. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then I watched it again in its entirety. So the show came out when I was 12 going on 13. I watched it in its entirety once it got to syndication. By that point, I was 19 or 20. And I watched the whole thing in syndication twice when it was came on late mornings on TBS. So I was always blown away by the shots because I'm a huge nature lover. Like, I love sweeping landscapes. I love greenery. I love, just the thought of walking barefoot in the grass raises my serotonin levels. So I used to find this show breathtaking. All the scenes of them rowing down the creek, or the scenes of them, walking up the lawn towards Joey's house or Jen's house or Dawson's house, I always just thought were just made my breath catch. I always wanted to live in a place like that, minus all of the overwhelming number of white people and the passive racism. But yeah, Alex is right. The pilot episode is stunning. Not just because of the landscape, and you guys know how I feel about pilots. No, regardless of what type of show it is, the pilot needs to match the sort of character development, the tone that you're trying to set. It needs to be the springboard for everything else. You can't just put out a pilot and then just chuck it, a few episodes later and rework these characters for us. And Dawson's Creek delivered what I want in a pilot. We get a view of who Joey is, of who Pacey is, of who Dawson is. Jen is our mystery element, so we get a very brief glimpse of who she is, and mostly through Dawson's eyes, since she is coded immediately as his love interest. We get a view of who Jen's grandmother is, of who Dawson's parents is, and who Joey's sister Bessie is. We know what we're dealing with. That's the kind of pilot that I can get on board with. So I really appreciated that about the show. The show was supposed to be based on Kevin Williamson's childhood, growing up in a small town in North Carolina. And Columbia asked him to relocate the show to Boston, which he didn't want to do. It was filmed in Wilmington, North Carolina, but it was set in a fictional New England town called Cape Side.
That makes so much more sense.
Yeah.
Even just like visually, I was like, I lived in Boston like for college. Like, this place does not look like New England.
Yeah, that is not
that
New England.
So much more sense. No, because like it does. It felt very Southern to me, and I was like, why does it feel that like it felt like South or North or the Carolinas, and I was like, my good friend, she's from South Carolina. I'm like, why does this look like 3 miles from like my friend's grandma's like backyard? Like, what is going on? And now that you've said that, so much has been illuminated. Okay, continue.
Yeah, so for whatever reason, they were on some Boston kick. I feel like there were a lot of really popular series at the time that were set in Boston, and Columbia wanted to have their shows on all the central hub so that they could share cast and crew in between shows, I guess. Well, not cast, but crew in between shows, and they could have network execs visit the sets. But Kevin Williamson was like, it absolutely needs to be a small town. Wilmington, Virginia was really, really cheap to shoot in. Wilmington, North Carolina was really cheap to shoot in. It had the small town feel that they were looking for. So while a few episodes and a few scenes, like all the scenes that were supposed to be in Boston were actually shot in Boston, and all the scenes that were in New York were also shot in Boston. But everything else was shot in Wilmington, North Carolina. And the WB liked the landscape and the scenery so much, they're like, let's just put it in Wilmington, North Carolina, and say it's this fictional New England town called Cape Side. And because Wilmington has ports, we could pretend like this was like a port town in New England. So that's what they did. So we see these, like Alex said, very, very southern looking. If you've been in North Carolina, you've been in Virginia, you've been in Georgia, it looks familiar to you for a reason. Well, in season 1, we are pulled into a conflict, like what seems like a small thing, but becomes the overarching conflict for like the entire series, and that's Joey's feelings towards Dawson. She and Dawson and Pacey have been friends all of their lives since they were like 5 years old, so like 2/3 of their life at this point. They're 15. The show starts right before they begin their freshman year of high school. It's interesting because she has these feelings for him, and they're unrequited feelings, and that's a very common thing in friendships when one person develops feelings for the other. But then Jen comes into town. Dawson's feelings are immediately clear to both Joey and Pacey how he feels about this girl, and he makes it no secret to Jen either. And it's not because Dawson is so suave and Dawson is so debonair. Dawson is just, in some ways, not in all ways, but in some ways, a lot braver than his two friends, which is a side effect of having a much better life than them, right? Dawson is used to getting the things that he wants and having an emotional support system around him and having a very, very easy life, to be very honest with you. So he makes his feelings very clear to Jen, and then Joey's horns come out. The Joey Potter that we are initially introduced to is not a very likable person because she's kind of a bitch to Jen for something that Jen can't control, which is being attractive to, and in her own manner, attracted to Dawson. She has no claim on Dawson, but she's mad at Jen because Dawson wants her.
Dawson, it resolves, but they never really become, I guess they become friends by like osmosis because all four of them end up spending so much time together. But then you never really see that female friendship with Jen and Joey like flourish.
Right. And this is something that I appreciated on the OC, when it was like Summer versus Anna for Seth's feelings. It was similar, not in the fact that Summer had always had these feelings for Seth, but that she had more time, to be in a relationship with Seth and didn't start noticing him until another girl came into the picture. Still, that was resolved in, I feel, a much healthier manner and showcased in a healthier fashion. Joey made Jen the enemy for no reason other than it was easier to blame Jen than to admit that Dawson had feelings for Jen and to admit that she had dropped the ball in admitting her own feelings.
Right.
And it is never resolved. We see a little bit of a friendship forming circa season 3, but it never becomes like a real friendship.
Yeah, never. Like we always, I think the friend groupings, and which I appreciated because I feel that that's real. I think in a friend group, you have a friend group, and then like within that friend group, there are people who are closer and people who aren't. And I think we always go on to see. I think we'll go on to see Jen and Jack be super close, and Joey and Dawson be super close. And like, I guess with Pacey adjacent, like switching off between the two. All three of them are super close. And then Jen and Jack are sort of like in their own orbit as well.
Yeah. And I also appreciated that. I felt it was real. I felt it was honest. And the way that Joey and and Jen have this huge tension between them, it really would have felt disingenuous to push her into that friend group of Joey, Pacey, Dawson. And, Dawson has these feelings for her that fluctuate constantly. He fluctuates between these feelings for Joey and Jen. It really would have seemed disingenuous. And it's very clear that, initially Joey only puts up with Pacey because he's Dawson's friend, not because they have a genuine friendship. That doesn't even happen until like season 2. Like, she's known him all her life, but they don't get close till season 2.
Right.
So, like, the way the friendship pairings are, I completely agree, was just, like, done well. Like, just really well. Another big thing that happens is that...
and then Jen and Dawson do get together. Sorry. They're the way
I did like them. I like them so much together.
But, okay, and sorry, continue. And then next...
Oh, no. Let's sit on this for a minute. They do get together. It's super cute. Joey is very, very salty. Pacey could literally not care less because he's actually a good friend. And it doesn't become an issue. Like, remember what I just said like 5 minutes ago about Dawson always getting what he wanted? It doesn't become an issue until Dawson realizes 2 things. Jen is not a virgin. And Jen actually was with people before him. When that happens, he becomes turned off to the idea of Jen and slowly starts sabotaging their relationship.
Right, he does do that, and and I want to say that feels dated, but I feel like it could still be relevant. I think you could still do that.
Oh, I know it's still relevant. It's not just 15-year-old boys doing it. There's grown-ass dudes out here that want to know people's body counts. So
it's like, does that matter?
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, does that like matter? Like, and I think and I guess it's just like an enduring dudes are weird because Jen is like probably so Eve, who we'll meet like I guess second season. Jen is probably like Eve adjacent in that like she's not in Dawson's mind, right? Like
right.
That Jen is like Jen's not overtly sexual, but like she is like super sexy and she is like aware of her body and like aware of herself, and confident in that way. And Dawson wants her to be like, and then he acts like such a dude. And then when the truth happens that she's like, yeah, I'm not like a virgin, he like freaks out. And by the way, to make matters even worse, like when Jen talks about how she lost her virginity, it's like horrifying. It's like, I think it's pretty much like, I want to say it was under traumatic circumstances. She talks about how she lost her virginity when she was like, what, 13 or 14. So like, but to someone like way older. So like, it was essentially statutory rape. So it's like, it makes it even worse. Like that he's like putting this sort of trip on her when it's like the circumstances of which it happened was like not even like, I mean, you can't even define it as like, it wasn't consensual. Like, the whole thing is like unfortunate.
Yeah, I believe she was 13 when she lost her virginity, and the guy was like 15 or 16. But the key element was that she was under the influence.
Right.
So she couldn't even like consent. And like Dawson is like being Dawson because his fantasy of this girl is not matching up with the reality, and now he's having like this full-on meltdown. And like Dawson's thing is, like Alex says, he wants Jen to be sexy, he just doesn't want her to be sexual. And it's like, calm the fuck down, Dawson. Like, it's not a Madonna whore situation. She's not a whore just because she's not a virgin. Chill on that. And he very much has that like Dawson is someone that we are introduced to who lives very much in a fantasy. He's obsessed, and I mean literally obsessed with movies. He doesn't just like movies. He doesn't just want to make movies. He's obsessed with film, and he thinks all the answers of life can be found in cinema. As a result of this, even though he's someone who's very much capable of moments of pretty startling self-awareness, he lives in a fantasy in regards to his expectations and his relationships with other people. He wants them to play out like a film, and then he gets in his feelings when they don't.
Right. For like whatever reason. I mean, well, no, because he just is who he is. He's Dawson. That's the reason.
So he sabotages that relationship completely on his own. And when Jen starts to feel that insecurity, right, that she's being judged by him, which she fucking is, she's someone who is coded in the very beginning. What the audience sees of her is wanting to make a fresh start. Her parents sent her to Cape Side more or less on punishment, and she's using this opportunity to be in a place where she doesn't know anyone and no one knows her, to basically turn over a new leaf. And when she feels this judgment from Dawson, she feels tempted to regress to her old ways. And it doesn't help when her ex-boyfriend shows up in the picture and pretty much obliterates anything that was left of her relationship with Dawson, and she eventually breaks up with him. And it was long overdue, to be very honest.
Right.
It is. He's ridiculous. The other two major things that are happening is that, two major things that are happening besides the Dawson, Joey, Jen love triangle, which Dawson isn't even aware that he's in a triangle. Like, Jen is very aware of of Joey's feelings. Joey knows her feelings, obviously, and Pacey is aware of Joey's feelings, but Dawson is completely oblivious, high key, because he wants to be. He doesn't want to confront Joey's feelings yet, and honestly, he doesn't have to. He shouldn't have to be forced to confront her feelings because she's ready to unburden herself. But the other two things that are happening is that Dawson's mother is having an affair, and Pacey is, and I use the term affair very loosely here, having an affair, quote unquote, with his grown ass English teacher, Miss Jacobs.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a mess, you guys. Y'all need to stop putting statutory rape as a plot device in these damn shows, please.
Yeah. So the Pacey teacher storyline has not aged well, to say the least, at all. And from beginning to end, it's just like horrible to watch. It's horrible to watch.
At the end of episode 1, we meet Miss Jacobs, and she walks into the video store. It's very obvious to me, it should have been very obvious to her, that she's dealing with like literal children when she's talking to Dawson and Pacey. Dawson, I believe, is the one who recommends a movie for her, but she can't keep her eyes off Pacey. He can't keep his eyes off her. And here's the thing about these types of relationships. I completely understand this younger person, especially, and we'll learn this later, someone like Pacey, who's never had any sort of emotional support or affirmation or validation from his family, being attracted to an older person or an authority figure, especially one that's as attractive as Miss Jacobs. It's the reverse that is creepy and icky and completely unfounded and baseless, that this teacher would have feelings for him and then she would act on them. It's completely predatory, you guys. It's completely predatory. It is a form of taking advantage, and it very much is coded as, he feels more like a man because she wants him, and she feels youthful because this boy wants her. He's 15 years old.
It's just gross. Like, so the show codes it very much as like, yeah, this sort of like great like romance. I think even the way it ends, like, I want to say is like, even when it ends, it's like, oh, it's bittersweet or like it's sad. But like I said, it just doesn't track. Like, it's just it's a plot that just has not aged well at all, because of the nature of it. And like you said, like it makes sense for Pacey to be attracted to her. It doesn't make sense for her to be attracted to him. Like, she's a job. Like, she's grown. She makes her own money. She lives on her own. Like, and there's nothing. And even worse, like, and I think something that's even worse about it is that they dumb her down. Like, this actress like plays this teacher so flighty and stupid and kind of stupid and very like and I guess it's like in an effort to like work this like make this relationship work in the context of this show. But like it doesn't work. Even watching it back now, it's awkward. It's awkward to watch, and they probably would have just been better off. They would have. I think you could have gotten the same sort of like, not forbidden romance, but I think you could have gotten the same like, uh, you know, he's a bird, I'm a fish type of like relationship with like maybe like maybe like the senior girl in high school, like a girl who's like a senior, like
Right.
being into Pacey, which would have been less icky, like, you know. And I don't understand, like, this is clearly, it's clearly to hype up the drama, but like there's nothing there's just nothing of it. And it's unfortunate because this is like the sort of like older woman like wanting to feel better about herself, having sex with like a younger man, like, and not just like, not like a May December, but like in like an inappropriate relationship, which this one very much is something that we'll see over and over again. I think we've already like reviewed shows where we've talked about this type of plot, and the fact that it's been used over and over again makes me think that there is some element of truth that like, because like we've talked about this in terms of like people don't study like women who are predators because they think like women, particularly like white women, and the way that white womanhood is constructed, they don't think white women can be predators. But the fact that this plot keeps showing over and over again makes me think that maybe they're, beyond it just being something easy and a popular plot, makes me think that there is some element of like honesty that in that, like, this is a thing that happens, and I guess I'd like to see it. So I'm not against it happening. I guess I'd like to see it, like, I guess I'd like to actually see like a show be honest with it, and that like, no, this is a predatory relationship, like this is bad, and then afterwards seeing like the fallout of, and like the residual trauma that comes from that type of relationship for like the younger person, if like we were to ever see this like again on another show.
I agree with that. And I have the same issue that Alex had with it. I feel like this, like, this, can't work relationship could have hit just the same if Pacey was like the secret boyfriend of a popular girl at school or something, like a senior girl. I also don't like, my biggest issue with the Tamara Pacey plot line was how it was romanticized. It very much was, when she lost her job and she left Payside over the rumors of this, like, it's so bittersweet, like the world doesn't understand us type shit. And like not her actually having caused him harm. And, like Alex said, we've discussed this when it comes to the nature of like grooming and statutory rape. And it's not just a matter of race, right? It's a matter of gender as well. People really have a hard time wrapping their brains around the fact that women can be statutory rapists of men. They almost cheer when some young boy is taken advantage of by an older woman. They consider it very much like she has made him a man. In fact, Pacey says this when recalling their relationship in season 2, like, she made me a man. Now, Alex's perception is that they dumbed Tamara down, which might have been the case. I wasn't focused enough on her to say that was definitively untrue. But what I will say is that I noticed that they matured Pacey very, very sharply after his interactions with Tamara. He's introduced to us as this like goofy, fun-loving guy, and then after Tamara, he becomes like this like mature, wise sage almost in their friend group. Like Pacey's friends start seeing him more seriously, and even the manner with which he carries himself is more serious. And just treating this like it's a romance, like Tamara did him some type of favor, is why this hasn't aged well. It doesn't hit you guys. Like, it's really gross.
Yeah, well, Tamara, she's dumbed down in the sense of, like, you do have adults on the show, like Dawson's parents, who are very much, like, who come across, like, as adults and authority figures, like, particularly, like, in interactions with, like, Dawson and Joey and Jen and stuff, when they interact with the kids, and they feel like, I mean, they're actual adults, and then they feel like adults, and Tamara just doesn't feel like that at all. Like, even when she's talking to, like, when everything starts to happen, she acts like one of the kids as well. Which, right, like, she's too old to be doing in the first place. Like, the actress is visibly too old to be doing. Like, so it's all so strange. The whole plotline is strange.
That actress is the same age as gotta be in the same generation as the actors who play Dawson's parents, Mitch and Gail. But she has no husband and she has no kids. That I notice even more than her behavior, to be very honest. Like, they tried to just make her like this very available woman that just happened to be older. She is, wildly attractive, but happens to not have a husband, happens to not have children, happens to live alone, happens to be like this kind of carefree individual. And I'm like, that's just, convenient for this really, really gross plot.
Right. And it's not, and that's even more annoying because, like, that's a very valid thing to be if you are that person. Like, if you are a woman and you don't have kids, you don't have a husband, like, you're living alone, like, you have a job, you're just, like, trying to get through life. That's fair. And like, I think that's even a depiction I think that we, like, encourage in order to, like, sort of have this separate ideal of, like, womanhood and, like, what that means. Like, womanhood and, like, the marks of maturing doesn't necessarily have to be, like, you get a husband, you get some kids, you can be all those things. You can grow and be a person without all those extra things. But like you said, it's used, like, for like, deceptive and bad purposes.
It is. It's really fucked up. So Dawson's mother's having this affair, you guys. And it's interesting. Like, remember I said earlier that Dawson, it has, like, great moments of perception and self-awareness. So just from watching his mother's interactions and her body language with her co-anchor, because she's the anchor on their local news channel, watching these interactions over a couple days, couple weeks with her co-anchor and seeing her body language and her voice inflection, he gleans that she is having an affair with this man and turns out to be 100% right.
Everybody's got to have a dream.
Everybody's got to have a dream. First of all, like, that I feel like more than setting this, like, the stage of, like, his mom's having an affair, which is, like, the outward plot, right? What that scene when he, like, breaks down his mother's body language and her vocal inflection and her head tilt and things like that to Joey, and he's like, I think my mom's having an affair, and he, like, breaks it down why he thinks that is. It really shows for me overall, like, above all else, that he really has an eye when it comes to cinematography and it comes to film.
Dawson, yeah, that's the thing that convinced you Dawson was talented. That, like,
yeah, like, that's the only thing he ever did that made him look talented to me.
You'd be like, maybe he has a little talent. I don't know.
Right, like, he went from someone who just likes movies a lot and is a white boy with a camera to someone who's actually clearly studied film, right? Like, a self-study, but he was clearly watching these damn movies for more than entertainment purposes. So she turns out to be having an affair. Why? And here's the thing that trips me out, you guys. No fucking reason whatsoever. She's married to a handsome man who treats her right. He is a co-provider in their household. They fuck vigorously and all over the house on a regular basis. Like, they don't have any stresses, financial or child or medical, that would make her to have an outlet. She's just bored, you guys.
Just your run of the mill like white woman ennui.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, that's what it is. Ennui. Like
Gail, this.
Happens
Get your life together.
Wait, but that's real though. Like women are like that. Like they're just like everything's perfect. I should fuck it up because
basically
happiness is just too much. Like all this happiness.
Like what can I do to offset this perfect cis het white nuclear family?
What can I do to blow that shit up?
Like I need a hobby. And even like when she's confronted, like we're thinking later we might get to some deeper core hidden thing, and there is no thing. There's no thing. Nothing is happening. And his parents break up in this season, I believe. This season, Joey's nephew, her sister Bessie, and her sister's boyfriend Bodie are expecting a child. And in the beginning of the season, her sister is very pregnant, and she has her son Alexander in this season as well. It's the very same episode where the hurricane episode where Dawson's father Mitch realizes that his wife Gail is having the affair. So a lot of things happen. That's one of my favorites.
Throws her out of the car during the hurricane. My heart stopped.
Yeah, I was not ready for that. I was not ready for that. I was used to watching. I'm not saying it doesn't happen in real life. In fact, I think it's very real. But remember how we talked about there's certain things that happen in real life that white people are hell-bent on keeping out of the media? I have never seen like a media portrayal of like the white dude, unless he's already coded as abusive, right? Like the white dude still not going above and beyond to protect the white woman, even when he's angry.
Yes, you're right. That's why that scene hit for me.
Usually, like, it would be like he would just be driving home in silence.
Right, he'd just be mad. Like, he's just gonna sit there and be mad. Like, he's upset about the situation and he's angry at you. But, like, we're all gonna, like, deal with it, like, in our waspy, like, internal way. Because, hasn't been coded as an abuser. But he throws her out of that car. He's like, girl, you better find your ass somewhere else to be tonight. Like, I don't give a fuck if it's like hurricane.
No. Mitch was not with the shits at all.
It's like, fuck this shit. Oh my God. I died. That shit was wild.
Mitch is a big guy. So the guy who plays Dawson's father, Mitch Leary, is John Wesley Shipp. And he's a very big guy. Like, he's only a couple inches shorter than James Vanderbeek, who is a tall guy, and he's really buff, man. He's hitting the weights. You know this.
He looks good too.
He looks so good. For like a guy in his like mid to late 40s, he was on that show. He looks very
good.
Like when he's angry, you guys, and that jaw sets, you don't want to play with this. Like when he kicked Gail out during the hurricane, I was just like,
I was like, damn, that was wild. I was like, oh no, you're gonna let that white woman just be out in that hurricane by herself? He's like, yeah, I am. I don't give a shit. Like, I was like, damn.
It was definitely not the typical white male reaction. Again, unless they're coded as abusers, they're not going to, leave the white woman to her own devices and not help her in times of need. This is actually more of a white woman response, right? Women in general and white women in particular are allowed to just like throw what some might call a tantrum when they find out that their man is cheating, right? If roles are reversed and Gail had been the one to throw Mitch out in the hurricane, it wouldn't have hit the same because we've seen that before.
Right. I mean, white women are encouraged to just throw tantrums, period. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, I mean, even just her having this affair when everything is like perfect, like, and she's just bored, it's really like a tantrum, right? Like, even that then in of itself, white women are encouraged to be like very flighty and very like tantrumy and like almost like children. Like it's why they can't get free, because they always like encourage it within themselves as well. They're never like, no, I'm gonna be grown, I'm gonna be a big girl in these big girl panties. Like, they're like, nope, I'm gonna throw this tantrum. That's what I want to do.
So it's interesting that this interracial relationship in 1998 would be like a talking point, but like when Joey meets Jen and she's recounting like her life story and the reasons why she's kind of like an outcast in Cape Side. She brings up the fact that her dad's in prison and that her sister has a black boyfriend, as if these two things are comparable.
Right.
I'm like,
that's just so white.
It's so white. Like, oh, woe is me. My daddy got locked up and my sister's dating a black guy. And I'm like, he's literally like a model citizen and like a chef. And like,
right. He's like literally the perfect person. Like, yes. And
he's fine.
Doesn't matter.
This man is fine. Like, this man is fine, you guys. Interesting about Joey's sister Bessie too, played by Nina Rapita. She very much has a Southern accent, you guys. This is supposed to be New England, and her sister were both born and raised in Cape Side, but Bessie very clearly has a Southern accent. It's very, very like, you know, like almost like a soft Georgia accent. So that should have been one of the tip-offs for both of us, I guess, that the show was filmed somewhere in the South. Especially when she's angry, which I thought was interesting. And I'm like, and this is the things that white actors get away with. A black actor would be like, oh, this show's set in New England, I gotta drop my Southern accent. If not pick up a New England one, right?
Right.
But she just played the role with the whole Southern accent and no one said anything.
Right.
So she because of this relationship as this relationship was used as a jumping off point in season 1 at least to set up the stage for Jen's grandmother, called Grams. Well, her real name is Evelyn. Grams' name is Evelyn, but Jen calls her Grams. Everyone calls her Grams. Is a racist. And it's interesting that she's a nurse because we've learned now, right, in like, I want to say the last 15 years, thanks to social media, that a lot of white women who are in the healthcare and education industries are flaming fucking racists.
Yes, they are.
So yeah, she is very judgmental of Bessie's relationship. She makes a couple valid points that she doesn't think this white woman can raise a biracial child, but her points are not from a place of like actual concern about the child. It's from a viewpoint of being anti-miscegenation. So that's why she behaves the way that she behaves. She doesn't think that black and white people should procreate. And that's where her real beef comes from. And then later on, they try to like give Grams a rebrand. In miniseries later, Grams starts dating a black dude.
Right. And I guess like that's supposed to be like your Grams isn't racist anymore because we all know that you can, you know, because we all know that like when you have sex with a black person, it magically cures racism.
Right. And this was a viewpoint that was set up in season 1 with Bessie. Bessie was clearly supposed to be that black person who, quote unquote, wasn't racist because she had a black boyfriend and a biracial baby. Right. Race was never discussed in their household. And we never saw a single member of Bodhi's family in their household. Like he was literally just the lone Negro in Cape Side.
Yeah, he was.
Black family or black friends ever.
Which is, I mean, it happens. It's just suspect. It's just always very suspect.
It's quite interesting.
That's all. But season one is like, and season 1 is also one of these like relatively, it's like the first season. It's only like a 13 episode order. And if I had to choose must see episodes of season 1, obviously. Season 1, episode 1, Dawson's Creek, the pilot. Season 1, episode 3, Kiss. Season 1, episode 5, Hurricane. Season 1, episode 6, Baby. Season 1, episode 8, Boyfriend. Season 1, episode 11, The Scare, which will be like the Dawson's Creek like annual sort of like Halloween episodes. I really enjoy the Halloween episodes each season. And season 1, episode 13. Decisions.
Yeah, so Decisions is pretty much where Dawson, this is like post the breakup with Jen, right, realizes that he has feelings for Joey and he runs to her and, well, in the original TV versions and the syndicate versions. I'll Be by Edwin McCain is playing. And, he goes to find her, and they finally get together, and the audience can stop holding our breath. I remember this was one of the most looked forward to season finales that I could remember as, a teen, preteen. It was so beautiful. And one of the things I felt that really helped the show gain traction with a large demographic and get the viewership that it got was because every episode's trailer was filmed like a movie, complete with songs, with music that was going to be featured on the episode and everything. It was great.
Right. So, in your opinion, good, bad, basic?
It was great. I love season 1 of Dawson's Creek. I fucking love it. You guys.
Yeah, I'll say like this season is like, I've never actually, this is actually my first like true blue like watch of like every single episode in this series. I usually like, I prefer like the later seasons, and when I want to rewatch, I just watch those. But I liked it. It's good. I'll say it's good. I enjoyed it.
And it's good despite that whole clusterfuck of plot with Pacey and Tamara. Despite all that, I feel like if it didn't have that, I would have given it a rating. It would have gone from great to fantastic for me. The reason why I say it's great in spite of that is because as a result of the relationship ending, we get some of the first of what will be several really great performances throughout the series from Joshua Jackson. So yeah, that's like one thing, that I could pull out that as a result of that. There's the episode where, he speaks to the school board and basically denies their relationship in order to not get her teaching license revoked. Right. And he's like contrite on her behalf, and he's taking this major L on her behalf, something he shouldn't have to, which I thought was fucked up also. But the acting in that scene, bar none, the best acting he did in season 1.
So season two, where are we at? Bring us in.
Joey and Dawson are in this brand new relationship. It's summer. And she is mulling over a decision to go to France. So it's basically France or Dawson. And because Dawson, again, is used to getting whatever he wants and has had a very easy life, he begs her to stay with him and doesn't see the issue with it when she chooses him, or why, for someone who's had so much deprivation in her life, he is depriving her of more. Sad. We're also
Ryan would never.
Ryan would never.
Ryan would
never,
like,
ever,
go
ever.
To France. You be happy.
Right. And so we're also introduced to Andy and Jack, who will kind of become fixers for a little while. They're a brother and sister that moved to Cape Side. And then Jack grows closer to Joey. They have a shared interest in art. They're like bonding. And, post breakup with Dawson, Jen is sort of unraveling and sort of regressing back to her old ways, especially when she realizes that she wants him back and she can't get him back. He's very, very invested in Joey at this point, in a way that honestly he was never even invested in her, because of all the shared history and stuff. And so she makes a new friend, Abby Morgan, who might be like the worst person ever and the closest thing the show ever has to an antagonist.
Right, like a true blue villain.
Right.
So let's talk about this Joey. So Dawson and Joey together are like insufferable to me. Like
Same.
I'm just like, oh, they're horrible. Like, and I don't want this. Like, make all of this stop. Like, that's it. That's all. Like, they're like, I'm like, because they're both sort of like aggravating characters, like in a sense. But like when they get together, it just multiplies, and like all the aggravation, I have like just intensifies. But I want to talk about like Joey as a character for a second. So Joey like is really perplexing to me. I think the way she's written is very perplexing to me sometimes because like I don't like even just thinking of it now like in season 2, and then I think something that will be real throughout I think the run of the series is like the show doesn't I guess the show doesn't know, and maybe like maybe my like perplexity is like that's like the point of her character and maybe I'm not getting that. But what perplexes me is like how she doesn't do anything. Like she just doesn't seem she's always focused. She's always extremely focused on Dawson in a way that like is so like it like that feels very like ridiculous to me. Like Dawson's focused on Joey, but Dawson's larger focus is I think on his love of movies and then later like wanting to be a director and working towards a film career. You know, Pacey is I think Pacey is focused on, you know, his relationships, but also focused on finding a sort of path and finding a validation and finding, since he is not academically inclined, finding really trying to find a sense of self-worth and trying to figure out like what is it in life that I'm good at, since like books are not it for me. Like there has to be another way and like in how and where I can be valued. And Jen is sort of kind of like on a similar like is also like has like that sort of same similar path, and that like Jen is trying to overcome like past traumatic experiences to then come out on the other side for herself as well. But Joey is just kind of like what is it? Where are we? What are we doing?
Fixated.
Just fixated on the sort of like men in her life. And I'm just like, so much to the point of like, you know, you're talking about like when we meet Jack, like, right, they bond over art. And later, I think in season 2, maybe it's season 3, like I might be getting confused. She like draws this mural, like she's very like, and I'm like, oh, good. Like Joey's finally going to get like a focus. Like she's going to find some other shit to do. Like I'm so proud of this girl right now. But right. She never does. Like this show like mysteriously drops that. And then I think later on, then it's like she likes books or something. Because then she wants to like not be like a writer, but like work in publishing or be an editor. And I don't know. Like I'm just confused because I'm confused, and I'm even more confused and upset because I'm like, she is too poor to be this fixated, like on to be fixated the way she's fixated on the men in her life. Like she's too broke for this.
Right. Joey is actually my least. No, she's not my least favorite. Andy's my least favorite. But of like the main core cast that's there from start to finish, Joey is my least favorite person on Dawson's Creek. She still is, but I feel like I understand her character more now that I've watched the series like 5 or 6 times. And I understand a bit more now about like coping mechanisms. So the Joey we meet is deeply insecure, and like she like tries to cover it up with almost this like false bravado. She's insecure about her poverty. She's insecure about her father being incarcerated. She's insecure about her sister's interracial relationship and how that will reflect negatively upon her. Just a very insecure person. And you know, I mentioned earlier that Gail's life is perfect. Well, Gail's life is also in large quantities Dawson's life. He lives that perfect cishet white nuclear, firmly middle class family, with all that support and all that love. And I really feel like, because consider too that she's known Pacey for the same amount of time she's known Dawson, right? And like inarguably, she and Pacey have more in common. But she's this fixated on Dawson. I really feel like her fascination with Dawson not to take away from real love that she has for him, is a form of escapism for this girl. That if she can be part of his world, that this will make her life better by proxy. Because he has a sort of life that she would want for herself in a perfect world. I really do see it as a form of escapism, like he's like a living fantasy. And in that regard, her and Dawson have quite a bit in common, seeing people more as a fantasy than as a reality. Because when that reality of Dawson hits and he's not the perfect boyfriend, he's a thing standing in between her and this dream of art that they dumped on her, because that girl ain't had no goals or dreams season 1, you guys. When they finally give her an interest, and then Dawson is standing in the way of that, and he's not the perfect boyfriend anymore, she gets violently shaken out of this fantasy that she was living in, and she cheats on him with Jack. And it's not cheating the way that Gail cheated, right? Out of boredom. She's cheating because she realizes Dawson isn't what I signed up for. But maybe I can get this other guy who's also seemingly perfect. And it's not even completely conscious, because Jack has feelings for her, and Jack makes a lot of overtures, and she tries to resist Jack. But the more Dawson shits on her dream, and not directly, right? He just makes it clear that their relationship should be more important to her than her dream. After years of her supporting his dream, she feels distanced from him, and rightly so. I really feel like all of her behaviors are manifestations of her insecurity and also like low-key depression. I feel like all the characters in Dawson's Creek were dealing with some form of depression, with the exception of Dawson. Joey had a sort of situational depression. Jen had depression as a result of childhood trauma and being sexualized at too young of an age. Pacey also had situational depression due to his home life and his family life. Andy was clinically depressed. Jack had depression as a result of being in the closet. Like literally everyone was dealing with depression but Dawson, and it manifested in various ways. This shit was steamy, you guys. Then he comes out as gay, and every male love interest that's thrown at him, it's so lackluster. I'm not feeling it at all. Like, I feel like that's why his career didn't take off, despite how ridiculously attractive he is. Because he really could not act his way out of a paper bag, playing a gay man interested in other men.
Listen, there are a lot of straight boys who can't do it. They just can't. Like,
he didn't have the range, you guys.
He didn't have the range. They don't have the range. It's real.
So yeah, that was irritating to watch, because I'm like, this is such a disservice to the gay community. So yeah, he comes out after Dawson and Joey's relationship implodes partially on his account, right? Because he and Joey had this whole little thing on the side. They were making out. It was kind of, didn't she draw him nude at one point? Like, she drew him like one of her French girls. She drew him like one of her French girls, you guys. Like, it was really steamy. Really steamy. And Joey's father's released from prison. And this is like a big thing, a moment that happened. So prior to this, so after he's released from prison, Dawson very quickly learns that he's out here selling drugs again, the shit that he got locked up for. But Dawson doesn't say anything. And thereby forcing Joey later on to find out and be forced to turn her father into the police. And she says she will never forgive Dawson, and they break up.
Tomorrow also comes back season 2, which is awful. That's all I have. It's awful. And I didn't want it, and I didn't need it, and for some reason the show did it.
It's awful, and they continue to portray this relationship as, a love lost, this very bittersweet one that got away, the world doesn't understand us type.
Which is gross. It's so gross.
It's so gross. Whew. But yeah, we learn more about Pacey and his verbally abusive and cruel father, and his subservient, sort of like despondent doormat type of mom. And we see him actualize and his actions in season 1 make perfect sense. They make perfect sense. Getting with Tamara and feeling validated from that relationship. There's still no excuse for her getting with him though, and we're dying on that hill. We're gonna die on that hill together,
Right.
yes?
Right.
So,
Yeah, that's real.
season 2 also does something that shows rarely do, which is expound upon a supporting character, which is Andy. Andy is shown as, for me, deeply annoying, but very bright, very charismatic, charming, fairly charming girl. But she and Pacey end up being in this relationship. And I consider Andy to be Pacey's real first true love. And as they start to get together, he realizes, or after they've gotten together, he challenges her and she challenges him, and they're age appropriate and they can talk about real life shit, and they don't have to date in secret, and everything's good. And then Pacey realizes that she has a lot of mental issues. She's dealing with clinical depression, but on top of that, she's having delusions, like paranoid delusions about her dead brother Tim, and these type of mental illnesses run in her family. Her mother has the same problem.
Right, like Andy, that's true. Andy has a lot going on.
She does, you guys. And like I said, I find Andy annoying, but she's one of those characters, again, whom I understand, and I like how much work was put into her, that we didn't have to wait another season for her to be a whole person. Cough, Joey, cough.
And then and then Dawson's parents, Mitch and Gail, start like sleeping with each other.
Right. I mean, they never, like, even when she was fucking her co-anchor, they never stopped fucking. They didn't stop fucking until Mitch realized she was cheating, right?
Right.
But
that's a lot of energy to expect.
Right, fucking your husband and your side dude. Like, imagine the kegels necessary to keep this girl. Like, I hope you had your Wheaties, hun.
Mostly because, like, and after that, I like the co-anchor looks like whatever, but like Mitch seems like somebody who like blows your back out, like who really like rearranges your guts. So like that's a lot. But
and so codes him that way. I think in the first, somewhere at least twice in the first 4 episodes of season 1, Dawson walks in on his parents fucking, and like one scene, Mitch has her on the kitchen table about to go to town, you guys.
See, that's so athletic. Like, I'm
just like, Gail is definitely taking her Centrum and her Flintstones and eating her Wheaties for this energetic ass.
And she just she probably like jugs cranberry juice like in between, just like.
Yeah, and she just does kegels in the car on the way to work. I don't know. She just, I don't know what she's doing.
I don't know what she's doing, but she's doing it. Like, and yeah, they start, because her good white husband is gone, so now she's learning her lessons. She's really, trying to, like, she knows she's trying to pull it together. It cannot be without your good white husband.
I think she realized, like, once he tossed her in the hurricane, it all came to her that, like, dating is hard. There's not a lot of good ones out here, and you fucked up in a major way. Are you really trying to start over with co-anchor dude? No, you're not.
No, you're not. You're not. She had that Beyonce talk with herself. She's like, are you really trying to divorce Jay-Z, untangle your assets, and do other shit? No, you're not. You're not ready of that.
So she put on some All Night, and she was like...
She did. She was like... She let Mitch have his lemonade moment, and she was just like, take me back.
Yeah, she tried. She sure did. Like, the beginning of that record is Mitch, and the end of that record, like the sandcastles and the all night moments, those were Gail, you guys.
Those were Gail. They love me.
Back. Dawson and Joey get back together. Womp womp.
Yeah, whatever. Like, I hate those two. They're so insufferable together. It's like because they're both like very self-absorbed. Like, and they get together, and it just is like, it's worse. And it's like, I didn't know it could be worse. Anyway, so
wait, really quickly on something you just said about them being self-absorbed. Joey's self-absorption flies under the radar for a lot of people because she has a hard life and she's poor. But like, let's not get it twisted. Joey literally makes everything about her. Even when like Jen came to town and Dawson didn't know about her feelings, and Jen didn't even know who the fuck she was. She like, it's like a personal vendetta with her now.
No, absolutely. Like, I mean, there were like, I think there were several times in season 1 and season 2 where I would like just out loud say like, Joey, this has nothing to do with you, honey. Like, just stop. Like, you're inserting yourself into a situation that like has absolutely nothing, like it has nothing to do with you in any type of way. I think even Dawson like says it to her like once. He's like, Joey, it has nothing to do with you. Like, it's not about you. And she's just like looks at him. Like,
I remember the exact episode too. Like, she came storming into his room or something. Oh no. This is when she interrupted his first date with Jen, when he brought Jen to the Royale. And she's sitting next to them, like straight up interrupting their date and like making snide comments to Jen. And then like Dawson like drags her outside. He's like, what's your problem? And she's like, my problem is you haven't spoken 2 words to me ever since Little Miss Highlights showed up. And it's like, bitch. I'm on a date. Well, it's not about you, Joey. It's not about you.
It's not about you, babe. Like,
that's why they're insufferable, because they're like, they bring out the worst in each other, honestly.
They do. Even I think there's an episode where like she tries to have sex with him and he's like, yeah, no, this isn't you, like, or something. And she's like, and she just scrap that. She just makes everything about her. That's all. That's it.
What you're talking about, I believe happens in season 3. So yeah, we're going to talk about that. But yeah, it's wild. And the thing about Joey is that she very much wants people on her terms. Like when she wants Dawson, he needs to want her. When she's ready for Dawson, he needs to be ready for her. And this is how she takes this attitude into future relationships, which we'll get into. But she's very, very, very self-absorbed, and he's very, very self-absorbed. And together, they're just really hard to watch. And it's really, I think back about that on that time, 1998, 1999, when seasons 1 and 2 were airing, and like people were really rooting for Dawson and Joey because, again, Joey had been coded as the good girl by virtue of her virginity, and Jen not being a virgin. And Jen didn't really have a fan club, but I was always team Jen, not even wanting Jen to be with Dawson, because the way he treated her at the end of their relationship, season 1, was low-key shitty, but just wanting Jen to have a win. I wanted Jen to win, you guys. And
in this really rewatch, I was all about Jen. Jen deserved. Jen deserved. That's it. So season 2, good, bad, or basic?
The whole Abby Morgan plot line really threw a wrench in this for me. I was gonna say good, but like Abby being used as sort of a vehicle for Jen to regress and her relationship with her grandmother to implode, I'm still on the fence of whether that was ridiculous or brilliant.
I thought it was
I'll say it's fine.
I want to say like it's good. Mostly because I do like that Abby Morgan plot, like in the Jen regression plot. Mostly because I felt like that was I like Jen, and I like that. And I thought like that was just I'm of the mind that like that regression plot is just honest. I think in terms of like, I think that's real. Like when you're trying to get better, you can't get better without like relapse, like, you know, in a sense, like without regressing a bit. And I liked that. And I thought that was very, and the fact, and like when Jen, like sort of like when everything that happens, and Jen like really comes to that, like, you know, punch to the gut, like, no, like this can't like continue. Like I really do have to get this together. I loved it. I really empathized with it and related to it, I think.
So the reason why I say I'm on the fence is not because I think the regression plotline wasn't good. I think it was good for all the reasons you stated. I do think when people are trying to like, get their shit together, get their lives together and do better, there is going to be a bit of a regression. It's just that Abby Morgan was just such a hyper, well, for lack of a better term, cruel character. Jen's, before Abby, was coded as someone who was a fairly decent judge of the kind of friends that she made. So I can understand her being friends with Abby if she's regressing back to who she was when her life was kind of in shambles in New York. But like, the Abby character is such a cruel person. I think she's set up that way so that when Abby dies, the audience won't feel too bad for her. But I think the whole "my friend died and I got my shit together" plot would have hit harder if Abby was someone that she could have loved, a friend that she truly cared about. So that's why I'm kind of on the fence of whether I like the Abby Morgan plotline or not. The regression, I think, was done really, really well. There's one episode also where like Jen sets up a date with an older guy and like he attempts to rape her, and that was like, one of the first like shocks, right, for her, that maybe I'm not living right. I shouldn't have brought this older guy to my grandmother's house. But like she goes down this like really shitty road and doesn't come to the rude awakening until Abby's funeral, where everyone's pretending to have cared about this person, and she doesn't want that to be her. I have no suggestions on how that could have been made better. I'm just always straddling the fence of whether it could have been done better or it was brilliant as is. I have no firm opinions, like at all, about Abby Morgan. I'm very in the middle, about what I think about that. But Dawson and Joey broke up at the end of season 2. That happened, and I think that's why I'm like, okay, this season is good enough. It's fine. Like I said before, I like the Andy and Jack characters. I think they were developed well, even if Kerr Smith was the wrong person to play a gay man. Like,
he just, yeah. I have more on that in season 3.
It's a mess.
So season 2, if I had to pick some must-see episodes, I like season 2, episode 2, Crossroads. Season 2, episode 3, Alternative Lifestyles. Season 2, episode 5, Full Moon Rising. Season 2, episode 10, High Risk Behavior. Season 2, episode 11, Sex, She Wrote. Season 2, episode 17, Psychic Friends. Season 2, episode 18, A Perfect Wedding. Season 2, episode 19, Rest in Peace. Season 2, episode 21, Changes. And then season 2, episode 22, Parental Discretion Advised.
Mm-hmm. I think that last episode, actually, like, I want to say, with the exception of season 4 and season 6, the Dawson's Creek season finale episodes have always been in like my top. They do season finales really well. They really like give you just enough to be hungry for the next season, which I've always appreciated, but still feel some form of closure in at least one respect.
Right. I same. I think sometimes the openers can be shaky, but I think the season finales are always really like nice and tight and clear and yeah.
So let's jump into season 3. Season 3, the Eve character is introduced. She's some sort of like half-baked attempt that the writers have of giving Dawson a sexual awakening. She's the Jen we meet in season 1 on steroids, not like drugs, like because Jen has like a minor substance abuse problems, but like she's like the hypersexual version of Jen, to the point where her skin always looks dewy and sweaty at all times.
Yeah, at all times. In another show, like I would absolutely like hate the Eve character, but but I'm never particularly bothered by her, mostly because like from the beginning, this show sort of codes her as like not like a real person. Like, in that the season 3 episode 1, like a virgin, where like we meet her on this bus. Her and Dawson talk about the movie like Risky Business, and they talk about this character from Risky Business, the girl, the sex worker who sleeps with Tom Cruise's character, and they specifically talk about how that character is not really a character. She's sort of just an amalgamation of all the like fantasies of Tom Cruise's mind. And I think in that the show, like in that sort of opening scene, the Dawson's Creek makes it clear that like Eve is sort of the same type of figure, that she's not really like a real person and she's not meant to be. She's just like an amalgamation of all the sort of like hot teenage fantasies of Dawson's mind. Even though later on they try to like give her like a purpose, like a real purpose of like being there. In that
Right.
like she's Jen's long lost sister.
Yeah, so she's Jen's half sister, whom Jen's mother had given up for adoption because she'd had this child when she was a teenager.
Right. But she's not. She's not like a real person. She's just like
she's not like a real person, and I'm completely with Alex here. Eve is a very non-offensive figure because she very much is set up as a fantasy, and honestly, giving her, this is one of the rare occasions I will say this, giving her backstory is counterproductive and does not hit.
It really does. It does not hit. And you know what? Like, and funny enough, I really, really appreciated that from the jump. The show was like, okay, so this female is not real. Like, just so you know. And to be honest, I wish more shows would do that. Like, I wish more shows would just be honest about like the purpose that like this person is like serving within the narrative. Because I think what I appreciated the most was that like the show was just upfront and honest about it from the jump. They were like, this character is not a real person. She's a fantasy. She's like just a figure. Like, she's not gonna do real shit. Like, don't expect any like growth, or like that's not what she's here for. And I feel like shows should do it more often, because I feel like all I'm saying is that more shows should do that. More shows should be upfront and honest about like fantasy like type of like figures or characters that like aren't meant to be like real people. I think it would help. It would help, at least for me, I think, with this ongoing conversation of like well-written female characters or like badly written female characters or like whatever. Because like if you don't know that somebody is like if you don't know that someone's there for like a specific purpose, like, or here, let me rephrase that. You can judge something fairly when you know like what the purpose of them is. You know what I mean?
I completely agree. Honestly, like I said, the only place I feel like they dropped the ball was in trying to give this character a complexity after the fact. Because
right.
Season 3, episode 1 is more or less Eve's pilot, her introduction to the show. You framed her in a very specific manner. Now you're trying to give her all of this complexity and history and intention.
It's like,
and
girl, I don't need it. You already said what you wanted to do.
Right. I don't need it and I don't want it. Like, go on with that.
Go on with that. Like, just let her disappear. Like, I don't care. Even if it's like you could have her disappear in like a cloud of like dust. Like, it doesn't matter, because like you said what she was from the jump. That's right. That's all I want.
I think the best way to have coded someone like Eve is to just have her like be this very bohemian person that's like nomad, that maybe just like gets in her car and goes from place to place, has no roots. And we could have still used, the backstory that like she's adopted without, to justify this without having to make her Jen's sister. Feel me?
Right.
And she just happens to be in Cape Side for the summer. She sees this kid. She's interested in his overthinking, verbose ways. And then she leaves at the end of the summer. It didn't have to be a bigger deal than that. Like, y'all were doing a lot.
doing too much. Anyway, but yeah, she's Eva's there, and she's like
And did you catch this? As soon as she becomes like a real person, like her skin becomes like the sweat is gone, the dewiness is gone.
I did clock that.
Yo, just like, so somebody finally got her to towel off. Okay.
I'm like, damn, like, y'all, listen, somebody was going crazy with like because like you can make yourself look like that, like you put baby oil on and then you spray yourself with water, and then like somebody looked like they also put like a little glitter on her as well. But like
they did. But and this is why she's so clearly the hyper Jen, because if you think back to season 1, Joey's character, if she wears makeup at all, it's a very matte lipstick. When Jen is introduced to us, her face is very, very dewy. There's like a pink shimmer on her cheeks, and Jen always wears lip gloss. And so even the way that they set up these characters in makeup is supposed to tell you like who's the good girl and who's the bad girl. Much later on in the show, when we meet Audrey, she's the same way, like dewy complexion, glossy lips. Like, it's the way they play with makeup to try to code these characters, I thought was super interesting.
No, yeah, and you always have like an eye for that. I always like miss stuff like that, but you're absolutely right.
Joey was out here wearing lipstick that was the same color as her mouth, you guys.
Eva's there, and she like is sort of like she comes to get Dawson all hot and bothered, and then as well as like throw a wrench into, just generally be wild and throw a wrench into many well-laid plans. His dad is like the football coach, becomes a football coach at the high school. Mm-hmm. And we also meet Henry this season, who is wonderful. And then we have the first Black person, well, not like the first Black person, but like 2 prominent Black characters that like show up in the season for like the first time, and then we deal with Jack's sexuality. It's a lot. Season 3 had a lot going on. So where do you want to start first?
Let's jump right into Nikki Green and Principal Green. I want to discuss that.
So I love Nikki. Nikki Green is played by Bianca Lawson of, Queen Sugar, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, every teen television show that you've ever seen, fame.
Saved by the Bell, The New Class, Pretty Little Liars.
Like any teen show, she's been in it, playing a teen, the beautiful light-skinned Black girl. And so here she is again in rare form, playing Nikki Green, the beautiful light-skinned Black girl, daughter to Principal Green. And she's sort of the first like Black female character like in the context of the show. And she is amazing. I love her. I was saying this to Em.
Isn't she the only?
I think
she's the only Black female character.
I think there's another. There is somewhere like either maybe it's probably in season 4, but you know what I was talking about, like in Stepford Wives, when they just do like a pan.
Oh yeah,
there's a Black person that's like strategically placed so that you can see them.
I remember.
Dawson's Creek does have like a couple of those. They don't speak, but they're like there's like a strategic sort of pan to them. So Nikki Green is actually gets to speak, and we meet her, and she's a filmmaker. And I was telling this in a private conversation, but I was saying that I want to my mind, to date, Nikki Green is still the best Black female, like the best written Black female character, and best treated female character on a teen television show. And that's not saying a lot, but I think her depiction is still the best one.
And you mean as a supporting character, of course?
Yeah, as a supporting character. Right. I mean, even I would say like even people who are supposed to be in the principal cast, like I think I want to say Nikki Green is still even treated better than like a Josie Keller.
No, well, Josie is part of the supporting cast as well. No, but I completely agree.
Well, she's part of the supporting cast, but she's in the principal.
Right. Okay. I feel you.
Right.
But yeah, Nikki Green got better treatment than a lot of. First of all, let's talk about just Bianca Lawson's characters alone. Her character on Saved by the New Class, okay, that's negligible. But when we talk about her character, Emily on Pretty Little Liars, when we talk about Emily Bennett from TVD, when we talk about, gosh, she's been on so many teen shows. Kendra on Buffy, they were treated with roughshod, you guys. Like, it was trash. And recently, the only character that I've seen that matches and surpasses the treatment given to Nikki Green is the character of Malika on Freeform show Good Trouble. And so it literally took 21 years for a Black supporting character to be treated as well as Nikki Green.
As well as Nikki Green. And like, you guys, that's real. Like, and when I tell you, like, this is not saying a lot, because like even Nikki is like not treated super, super well. Like, she's only in like 3 episodes total in the season. Something Em and I had discussed is like, it's in the details of things. It's all about the details of things and caring about the details of things in terms of Black characters. Nikki, something that, when we meet Nikki, we learn that she is, well, first of all, like, Dawson in true white male fashion very much dismisses her, right? When they meet at this film festival. And then we go on to find out that not only is Nikki a filmmaker herself, but she is way more talented than he is, like, and more accomplished than Dawson is. And he
has a Seth Cohen moment.
He does. He has a Seth Cohen moment. And she's a formidable filmmaker in her own right, but she's also a kid of like divorced parents, and she's dealing with that. But she is passionate about music and like dance and like other types of art. I mean, we even get to see Nikki like in her own bedroom, which I really cannot stress enough how like important that is. And I don't think I've ever seen since for like a Black female character. Not even, like I said, not even Josie. Like I don't think we ever see Josie's bedroom like throughout all of like Riverdale.
We sure don't. And what about that girl Valerie that he was with in season 1?
We never.
As soon as he and Valerie break up, we never see Valerie again. Or the other pussycat. I forget her name.
No. Yes, Melody. We never see Valerie or Melody ever again. And not only does we see her bedroom, but Dawson goes to like her house and has dinner with her dad. We see Nikki's home. We see like their dining room. Like, Principal Green talks about her and talks about how she, like Dawson, was obsessed with film like at an early age. Like, she asked for a Super 8 camera when she was 10. We understand that like she's a daddy's girl. We get that from the narrative based on like the small scene that happens at the dinner table. And like I said, I don't think we don't get that depth with any other Black female teen character like since. And it's ridiculous. Like, it's ridiculous. Everybody needs to just do better.
Yeah. Like I was saying to Alex, the since then, the only Black female character I've seen treated this well is, the Malika character on Good Trouble. She's a supporting character that's part of the principal cast. From the very beginning, she's coded as having her own dreams and goals and aspirations. We see Malika's bedroom often. Malika lives in an apartment community with a bunch of white people and the Asian woman who's like their landlord, but she has her own subgroup of Black girlfriends that she gets with regularly. She has her own relationships. She's got backstory. We learn about her family, her father, her brother, her mother. And like, I was wondering what about this seems so strange to me. And then Alex brought up Nikki, and I'm like, oh, because they never do this. That's why this is strange, because they never do this for us. And unlike Nikki, thankfully, Malika was, not written off in a few episodes. She's like a fixture. She's part of the principal cast. She's been there since season 1. I think the show's going to get like a 3rd season, I believe. And I've never seen them do this for a Black girl, especially like a Black girl that wasn't light skinned or wasn't ambiguous. And it's really, really sad that when I think about just Black girls in general being treated well on TV as supporting characters, all I have to go on are Nikki and Malika, you guys.
Right, that's it. That's all we have to go on. And it's like, it's like you said, like 20 something odd years, like, because Dawson's Creek ended its run in when, like 2003. No, but I'm counting from when Nikki left, and that
3rd season premiered in like 2000 or like the end of 99, and then you have like Good Trouble, which premiered in like 2018. So I'll say like roughly 20 years to do this right. But yeah, just Nikki and Malika. I've been beating my brain up against the wall for a week since we had that conversation, and I can't think of anyone else.
Same. I really can't think of anybody else, and so you guys, listeners, if you can think of anybody else that meets these parameters, please like hit us up on Twitter, like because I couldn't, and I Googled too. I even Googled like Black female characters, like and I couldn't really think of anybody else. So all that to say, like, come on, like, this is
do better.
Do better. Black girls have inner lives. We deal with people, like, we have thoughts. We're interesting. Get to know us, because, like, I guess maybe you don't care, but like, get to know us. We're fun. We're interesting.
I mean, I'll put it from a perspective of something that they might care about. Developing your Black girl characters well means that the development of the show overall will be better. When everything else is like going swimmingly, but then you know, the car won't start and it sputters when it comes to your Black characters, it doesn't just make you look racially incompetent, it makes you look like incompetent writers. And that's all I'm going to say on that.
That's so real. Like, it's also a testament to like how good a writer you are. If you can't like make and that's real. Like, if you can't make a character work outside of these boundaries, like you're just, I don't know, you're not as talented as you think you are, I suppose.
So I want to jump right into like the meat of season 3, which is this burgeoning relationship between Pacey and Joey. I was here for that.
I love Joey and Pacey. They're like, I love Pacey and Joey. They're great. And it starts to, and she just becomes so much, she just chills out when she's with him. I love it. Like, all the things that make her so aggro, like, they don't cease. They don't cease, but they definitely like dampen.
Right. And I will like relate this to something that I said when we were talking about seasons 1 and 2 and her behavior towards Dawson. You know, I did say that she and Pacey, they've known each other the same amount of time, right, as her and Dawson. And they have more in common than her and Dawson, but she's fixated on Dawson, right? Because he I think in her subconscious mind, he represents this ideal of normalcy. And I think that's why she's so irritating when she's around Dawson, because there's a part of her that still feels insecure, not good enough, and thus tries too hard. And that's why she's so irritating to watch when she's with Dawson. I feel like there's a part of her inferiority that kicks in that isn't there when she's with Pacey. And I love her for Pacey because, you know, they challenge each other in the similar way that he and Andy challenge one another. But it was all of the best aspects of dating Andy. And for Joey, she finally, you know, was around somebody, and they weren't official, right? They were just like flirting around the edges, but she was spending time with somebody who really believed in her goals and was pushing her to fulfill her dreams and not just like be a ride or die for his goals and his aspirations, which was new to her.
Right. True. Like, exactly. Like, Pacey was definitely like the support to her, and sort of very like laboring, I think, emotionally for her. Well, I don't want to say he labored emotionally. I think he just was like, he called her like on her shit, and he was just like, what are you doing? Like, you're acting like a weirdo. Like, whereas as Dawson sort of encouraged it. And
so this dude bought her a wall, you guys, which I'm like, as far as romantic gestures go, this is a fucking gesture for the ages. She has like a school project or a contest that gets destroyed, and he buys her a whole wall to paint to her heart's content on. And this is when we realize that like Pacey's in love with Joey, and I think this is when she might realize it too, but she hasn't admitted it to herself yet. That he's in love with her. It was the relationship. Like, I love a slow burn, and this one was really, really well done. Dawson sort of like is the catalyst unwittingly, because he kind of pushes Pacey to her after their second breakup, and they become really, really close. And post his breakup with Andy, who was cheating on him in the mental health facility that she'd been admitted to, Pacey's reassessing things and Joey's reassessing things, and it could be easy to say that they were on the rebound if they got together too soon. So having this be like something that's drawn out for like the 23 episodes, I thought was really well done.
Right. They don't kiss until like episode 18. And like, so like near the end of the season. And that's when I think things really start to, I think, heat up for them. I want to talk a bit about Jack.
We got to talk about Jack.
I want to talk a bit about Jack and the way this Jack plotline is sort of written out and how it will go on to sort of be so aggro. I think for like ever and ever, amen. But
continue.
But so Jack, like, I guess, like, you know, comes to terms with like his sexuality. He realizes he's gay. And it's just in the show. I don't want to say it's not the act in the show, just like he eventually gets like a love interest. You can call it that, like a love interest in the form of like his eventual prom date. The way that like the show from like season 3 onward to the end of the series, the way that they will treat Jack's sexuality is just like, ugh. Like, and I get that like there's only so much, and I don't put like a lot of blame on the writers at the time, because like this is 1998. I'm sure the network was like, absolutely not, you're not gonna have boys kissing on television. Like, I don't fault them for that, but it is like troubling to me, because I think when I look at the way that like Drax's story is treated and Jack's sexuality is treated, and then I look at, I think, teen shows of like today, like very recently, like Gossip Girl, and that we just reviewed, and then looking at some other, and just other sort of like gay male narratives in teen shows, I think they're like still treated this, like I think they've gotten like a bit better, but for the most part they're still treated this way. Either like you get one sort of like dry kiss like from two male characters, or it's like they're like, oh yeah, we're gay, but then like it's never realized in any sort of like meaningful way within the show or like the narrative of the show.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And it's very much an issue with gay men. Now, the awful casting of Kerr Smith aside, because he really don't have the range, you guys. Jack's love interest, Ethan in season 3, and then later on in season 4, Toby, his reactions and responses to them code him very much as a self-loathing homosexual.
Yes, he's very self-loathing.
Like, boy, if you don't get the fuck over this, and it's always male characters, I swear to God, you guys, because when we're dealing with, like, for instance, like a Maya and an Emily on Pretty Little Liars, that shit was heated. There was chemistry. When we talk about even more recently, Cheryl Blossom and Tony Topaz on Riverdale. They have some of the best sex scenes, right? But it's like, why can't you write two men like this? Like, and they had male gay characters on Riverdale. They just never got a sex scene, right? Kevin is gay. He never gets a scene.
Kevin gets like
he gets like he gets like dry kisses. Sometimes he gets a little wet kisses, and then they cut out.
Right, and then it's also just this, and then even beyond sort of, and with Kevin, I think especially because Kevin's character gets ignored a lot. Like, it's also just like this ignoring of like their character, because like Kevin gets ignored a lot, which is wild to me because Kevin and Josie are sort of in the same boat. They both get like tossed by the wayside, which is wild because both of them have these sort of like huge things that happen in their like within the course of the narrative, these sort of big things that happen, and then the show just sort of like never deals with it, because I guess showing it's like they can't. It's like we understand that like on teen shows romantic relationships are like extremely important, right? Like because it's within these romantic relationships that like these teens are like sort of discovering who they are and making their foibles and making mistakes and coming of age. We understand that, but then we also know that we have to balance that with sort of like real life shit. And it's like when it comes to these like male gay characters and they are in like black women, like they don't know what they're like, they just can't. It's like there's no they have no like inner life for them, or can't imagine what their inner life is going to be, which is troubling considering, which always like troubles me like in a sense, because Kevin Williamson is gay, like Greg Berlanti is gay, like the guy who writes Ryan Murphy's gay, like the guy who writes Robert Asagio Cortez, like that's the showrunner and creator of Riverdale, he's also gay. So I'm so like,
right. But I want to see the gay hit the paper. I want to see the gay hit the writer's room, please.
Right. But that's what I'm saying. Like it is in the writer's room, right? Because they're the showrunners and creators. They're in charge of like coming up with these storylines, plotting out these arcs, and yet they cannot do it. And by the way, all these male gay characters are white. Like all of them are. And this is like why I want to bring up Elite. As much as like there's like this show like on Netflix called Elite, and as much as Elite like has other problems, like has like racial problems and like whatever, like I think Elite like going forward should be like how you write like queer male characters, like because something that's so impressive to me about the series is like this way that they're like completely unafraid to like integrate these gay male characters in the narrative and have them be not only important to the narrative but like important to other characters, active, and they're active within the narrative. The thing about Jack is that like once he like comes to terms with his sexuality, it's like they like shove this character to the wayside. And I bring it up because, like I said, it's something that will continue to happen throughout teen series in time. They shove him to the wayside. He's like he always feels like he's off in his own plot line. It feels like he's never really that like he's not integrated or endeared to the other characters like in a really real, meaningful way. Like he's there when they need him, but then like otherwise he's just sort of like off doing something. And more than just sort of like negligence, it feels like self-loathing. It does feel like a little loathing a bit, and it feels a little like they kind of hate him. And I'd like to see us get over that. That's all.
Don't tell me you took this much care with these other characters, but then you just throw Kerr Smith, who is like the most wet blanket of gay characters, who has no chemistry with other men. It's not it's not just that Jack is self-loathing, right? When you throw in someone who doesn't have the range to play a gay character and who isn't gay themselves, it compounds the issue. I just feel like a lot of internalized homophobia was projected onto that Jack character, and it was really painful to watch. And Jack is very much
painful to watch.
So hard, you guys. And Jack is very much, like Alex said, like on the fringes of everything. When he starts to come into his own, and he's no longer the teenager who's having this existential angst about his gayness. Like, he's very much pushed to the fringes and off to the side and doing his own thing. And you know, like, it's just so mishandled. And you can't have this many gay people on board and be fumbling the gay bag like this.
Like, right? And then like Jack always has like this in like he hates like femme like gay men who are like a bit more femme, and like he has like this like not hatred but like this utter like I think contempt and disdain for like quote unquote gay things. Like he's super obsessed with like Mask and like appearing as Mask and like other gay men appearing as Mask. Like even I think in the 4th season, like in some later seasons, there's like this gay bar, and like Jack only likes it because like, you know, it's not like those other fairies, like, you know, or like whatever.
Right. No, that's real. Like, and the thing is, it's not just a femphobia with Jack, because when we talk about characters like Ethan in season 3 and then later Toby in season 4, they're not femme. His problem with them is literally just that they're out and they're proud of being out. So like he wants his partners to be self-loathing just like him.
Just like him. The fuck? What is wrong with you? Like, what?
It's not even enough that they're masked. Like, they gotta be in this closet with you. Nah, fam.
Like, and honestly, I think, and I want to say, like, when we meet Toby, and we'll get to this, Toby at first, like, doesn't even want to, like, fuck with Jack like that. Because he's like, you know what? I don't actually have a problem with being gay. Like, I like having sex with men, and I'm very secure in my identity. So, like, you go be over there. Like,
Jack very much treats his gayness, and by proxy, the gayness of any potential love interest, as some sort of affliction. He's definitely the sort who I could see, like, 20 years prior, enrolling himself in like a gay conversion therapy.
And I'm like, Jack, what's going on, babe? What's going on? Like, let's talk. Like, and I guess to like be, you know, to give some benefit of the doubt, or like to be fair, you know, maybe that is like a really real narrative, right? And this is why the show maybe should have been kept in the South and not New England. Because maybe that's fair for like a young gay man coming of age in the South. Like that sort of self-loathing is right there. It's right on track. But I think the problem is that like Jack will always, that he never really grows out of it, right? Because like when Jack joins the frat, like that's what the frat is about, in a sense, right? Of him being like, not like those other gays. Like, and we'll get, like I said, we'll get to that because that's later on.
Jack definitely gets off on being like the token gay who's not like those gays over there.
He's not like those gays over there.
It's so weird. Like, I'm normal. I like normal shit. I'm masculine, and I don't shove my identity in your face. Like, he's very much like he's like the right wing gay.
He is. He's like your like Trump supporter gay. You're all right gay. But yeah, and it's just something, and I guess like I bring it up now because this is the beginnings of it really start to manifest in season 3 with Ethan and talking to Ethan and being with Ethan. And shout out to Ethan, because like I would have never, like I would have been like, you gotta do something else, friend, with someone else, because I can't really take on all of that with you right now.
But then he later does, remember? Like after Jack like refuses to like engage with him when they go to prom, they break up, and by the time Jack tries to get him back, he's back with his ex-boyfriend. Right? I was like, yes, Ethan, don't waste no time.
Ethan, don't waste time. Ethan was like, I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna find somebody better than you to like his ex, and then like met Jack and was like, listen, and then went straight back to like,
The
listen, let's
world is
work
a
it out.
wave. These self-hate gays are not the wave.
They're not the wave. Like I thought I knew, but I didn't.
But yeah, so Henry is also introduced, like, hey, he's a love interest for Jen, and he's all the things that she deserves, and he's sweet, and he's pure, and he's kind, and he's innocent. And when we do our season 2 recap, our second half of this recap, seasons 4 through 6, I will explain to you why at the end of it all, I couldn't be here for Henry, and it was 100% the writer's doing. But I love Jen season 3. She got her little life together. She was on a new path. And this is the Jen, more or less, that we're going to see for the series' duration.
Right. Very overtly feminist, very like sarcastic, very sardonic, and fun. She becomes the head cheerleader by like essentially insulting by insulting the current head cheerleaders, and it's hilarious. It's a great episode. It's really funny.
But yeah, I love this relationship between Jen and Henry because, you know, he clearly lusts after her, but he doesn't treat her like a sexual object. And this is the first time that we see it's implied the first time ever that Jen is properly courted.
Right, because Jen doesn't really know what to do with him at first. She's like, I don't get it. Like, until she doesn't get it until she gets it. And you know, Henry, played by Michael Pitt, who's very much went on to be an indie darling, and
he was
still
so cute
is.
And baby faced. He was so cute and baby faced on the show. I love it. Season 3, after the kiss, before Joey and Pacey finally get together, Dawson finds out about the kiss. And his reaction and Andy's reaction was some of the most aggravating, frustrating, exhausting shit to watch, you guys.
Oh yeah, it was really aggy.
Dawson, you know, just shifted into this, like, it was like watching a transformer, you guys. He like shifted into this like very aggressive, possessive, territorial person. He renounced his friendship with Pacey. There's an episode where you know, they're in a boating race where he's trying to manipulate the situation to come out as a hero, and then during the race he almost gets like Pacey's boat destroyed and could have gotten him killed, and gets disqualified because he's like fighting for Joey like a prize. And Joey goes back to being her aggravating self because now that she understands how much Dawson wants her and that he wants her back, she all of a sudden can't decide. And it's sad because it isn't until Dawson gives her permission to go that she chooses Pacey.
Which is like my worst. I hate that. It's that sort of like plotting is like a fixture on teen series of like the triangle, and then like the man is the one that like really resolves it. Like, yeah, you can go. I need writers to make their female characters just more active. Like, and right, because we even talked about this with like Haley and Jackson. It's like,
right.
Elijah sort of gives permission to Haley. He's like, yeah, girl, go and be with them. It's like, no, like, I want my female character to choose. Like, I want her to choose for herself, to be like, you know what? No, I'm done with this. I'm good. Like, this is the person I want to be with.
And I want to go right back to the OC on this. We had love triangles. We had Marissa, Teresa, and Ryan. Teresa chose to extract herself from that situation. We had Anna, we had Summer, we had Seth. Anna chose to extract herself from that situation. They're not like waiting on this guy to decide, and they're not telling him, go be with the other girl. They're realizing, I'm worth more than this. Right?
Right. Which I know, like the argument against that, I think sometimes can be like, well, that's like a cop out, and I can see that in some instances, but like I always prefer that to having a man choose. I always prefer like a woman like making that choice for her own, because I think at the end of the day, it still just sends it sends a more positive message.
Right. And this is why I say, like, I feel like all the characters on the show are battling some type of depression. And like Dawson is a form of escapism for Joey, because when he finds out and he tells her, you can either be with him or you can be my friend, you can't have both. She chooses his friendship. And he says it's just friendship. And when she calls him out on that, he's like, well, you should have known I wanted more than that. And like, she's with Dawson again. And it's high key like watching someone in a hostage situation. She's fucking miserable, you guys. But Dawson hasn't given her permission to leave, so she can't leave yet. She misses Pacey like crazy. She's in love with him. She's thinking about him nonstop. But this friendship to Dawson, this ideal of Dawson means more to her in that moment than this very real relationship that she's built with Pacey and the very real possibility of happiness and freedom that she could have with him. And they go off together on a boat, and it really represents her actualizing her own freedom. But like, you didn't leave until Dawson told you to go. And even when he told you to go, you were resisting, and you left him with tears in your eyes. Like, it is so convoluted, you guys. I just wanted to be very clear that even when she quote unquote chooses Pacey, she still has very strong ties to Dawson, and that's why it didn't hit the way it should have hit. Oh, and Mitch and Gail get remarried.
Yeah, girl.
So that meme of Dawson like crying, like on and like breaking down crying and making that really ugly face, the meme with James Vanderbeek, it comes from that season finale episode, season 3, episode 23.
I love it. That's amazing. So obviously season 3, 23, True Love, watch it, must see.
Must see.
Must see. I'd also put in season 3, episode 1, Like a Virgin. Season 3, episode 3, None of the Above. Season 3, episode 7, Escape from Witch Island. Also, season 3, episode 8, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. I want to say, when does Nikki first show up? Season 3, episode 11, Barefoot at Cape Fest. Season 3, episode 14, Valentine's Day Massacre. Episode 15, Crime and Punishment. Episode 16, To Green with Love. Season 3, episode 18, Neverland. Season 3, episode 19, Stolen Kisses. Season 3, episode 20, The Longest Day. Episode 22, The Anti-Prom. And then True, like we said, 23, True Love.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot, but there really were a lot of heavy hitters.
But there were heavy hitters.
But 20 and 23 are my favorite.
Yeah. And I included all of Nikki's episodes. So, because I want y'all, she's so great. Bianca Lawson turns in a performance that like in another era would have like earned her like a series, probably like bumped her up to like a series regular, if not like a constant, because she gets to be a recurring character. Oh, I like season 3. Season 3 is like when I really like season 3 and over and going forward is like when I really fuck with the show deep.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think season 3 was great, and it's actually my favorite season of all the Dawson's Creek seasons that ever Dawsoned.
Same. I think like you can get like if we're always on about like, I think if you didn't want to watch the whole series, I think you could pick between 4 and 3 to get it.
I agree with that. Like the characters are in seasons 3 and 4 more or less whom they're always going to be.
Yeah. Like they grow a bit, but like they grow still like a bit, but like it's really like if you were looking for like the sort of like Dawson's Creek at its peak, like 3 and 4 are where it's at.
Which is difficult, right? Because a lot of shows that either do this in seasons 1 or 2 and then peter off and it gets murky. Dawson 3 becoming more solid in its middle seasons is actually not that common.
Not that common. And it's funny, like I also think the show does not like, and we'll get to this like in the later half of the recap, but I I think that this show also does the college fumble really the best. Like the transition to college. I think this
I agree with that.
Yeah, I think this show like has the best handle on it. And there you have it, folks. This is the first half of our Dawson's Creek recap and what we think made seasons 1 through 3 good, bad, basic, and groundbreaking.
Dawson's Creek was clearly a show written by boomers and Gen Xers, but the fact that the entire cast sounded like they just left an SAT prep course was part of the show's charm. Who knew that teenagers, a group of people notorious for thinking that they're so much more mature than they are, enjoy watching a group of teenagers who always know the right thing to say? Clearly, Kevin Williamson did.
If you haven't already, be sure to check out our patrons exclusive GBB Dawson's Creek Spotify playlist and tune in next week when we'll be finishing up our discussion on this landmark teen drama. Until then, look out for GBB's upcoming movie review airing this Saturday. Em and I will be discussing 2004's remake of The Stepford Wives. A bonus for top-tier patrons only, GBB's movie reviews will deal with casting, writing, plot pacing, cinematography, and the use of common cinematic tropes in the films that we enjoy.
Follow The Good, the Bad, the Basic pod on Spotify to listen to all of our regular weekly episodes on the go. If you love this sort of content, spread the word and become a show producer and patron on Patreon. Your support allows us to keep bringing you our regular weekly content as well as exclusive bonus material.
As always, be sure to check out our SoundCloud page, The Good, the Bad, the Basic, and of course, be sure to follow us at Good Bad Basic Pod on Twitter. Until next time, bye everyone!
Bye everyone!